welcome back. First meeting after spring break. Everyone have a good spring break? Yeah? Yeah? I'm seeing nods, a lot of tired faces. I don't know. Good, bad. Why is this? All right, let's get rolling through some announcements. You might notice I'm not Kenny. Kenny's not here today, so I'll be filling in for him. I will do my best. All right, join the Discord if you haven't. This is how you're going to sign in, discord.rodsec.club. If you're online, definitely join our Discord. We have new methods where even if you aren't a member of RIT, you can still be a part of the RIT-Sec Discord. So if you're online, you're not an RIT student, still join. Join discord.rodsec.club. You won't be able to sign into our meetings and such, I don't think, but you will be able to participate in the online community. And for those of you who are in Discord, please sign in. It's up? Okay. Apparently the sign in is up. You can go to the sign in category, general meeting, react to the message. You can put any reaction. You guys know the drill. Check the calendar. If you haven't added this calendar to your Google Calendar already and you want to like go to RIT-Sec events, I don't know what you're doing. All right, come on. You go to calendar.rodsec.club. There's this funny little button in the bottom right, little plus Google Calendar button. Click that. It'll add it to your Google Calendar. Join the mailing list. I know for those of you who get the mailing list every week, including myself, there's a lot of boilerplate content in there. I know if you get it every week for years, you end up skipping the mailing list most of the time. But definitely, if you aren't on it, join it, because this is how you're going to see who's presenting each week. This is how you're going to see special announcements about what interest groups are doing, what different opportunities there are to sign up for things. So definitely check the mailing list. We try our best to send everything to both Discord and the mailing list. For those of you, I know some people don't have Discord, but yeah, join the mailing list. Lots of good info on there. The RIT-Sec CTF, is Zach here? No? All right, so the RIT-Sec CTF, if you are interested in participating in the RIT-Sec CTF, not making a challenge. I know there's some of you in here who have been making challenges. We really appreciate you. But if you are interested in participating, please go sign up on CTF Time using this QR code. CTF Time, not our platform, but our event information is hosted on there. So go scan that QR code. Should bring you to this URL. It's CTF Time. You can go sign up. Make sure you guys limit your players to 5 teams. Or I said that backwards. Make sure you limit your teams to 5 players, okay? We are going to have a maximum of 5. If we find out you're using more than 5, we're not going to be happy. You'll get disqualified. For RIT teams, there is stuff that you can get. Perhaps goodies that you can get if you are an RIT student and you come in a high-ranking place in the CTF. Clap it up for the sponsors. We have so many. All of these wonderful people who help us out. And of course, follow our social media. Sophie's doing a fantastic job of keeping both our Instagram and our Twitter updated. They're popping. Go check it out. If you guys have content you want pushed to either of these social medias, definitely send it to Sophie. She's on the Discord. She has a purple name on the Discord. She is looking for any and all content. If you guys go to an interest group, you guys do something fun. Like I know Wiggles sometimes goes out and talks to like satellites. That would be cool. Take a picture, send it to Sophie. She'll post it on our social media. If you guys are hanging out in the club room, snap a picture, send it to Sophie. We want more content, all right? Without further ado, I'm going to give it to these fine folks to talk about DevOps. Clap it up.
Hello, everyone. Today, we're going to be talking about how I learned to stop worrying and love ops. So, Michael, you want to take it?
All right, so for those of you who don't know me, I'm Michael Scalzetti, also known as Voxel Vortex Online. I have a couple interests: home labs, cars. I like music and stuff. Here's some pictures of my family and me and my friends.
In case you don't know me, hi, I'm Ross McKee, the junior operations lead. I am probably the top final wear of RITSec, disputed. I do a lot of IT stuff. Sometimes it's secure. Some of my interests include, going outside and touching grass, going out in the woods, staying as far away from computers as possible. I'm generally interested in networking, infrastructure, home labbing, and just generally building stuff. And I love old Volvos, like absolutely. You can see my beautiful car right there. So what are we going to cover today? So we're going to kind of go through a little beginner's guide to ops and Black Team, who we are, what we do, the technologies that we use, the processes that are involved, just to kind of give you guys more insight into stuff that generally doesn't get covered in club. How to get involved, why you should get involved, among other things. So what is ops? Take your pick. Favorite one. I'm particularly, bottom left, oops, pants shrank. That's what we stand for. But yeah, no, ops is not an acronym.
Yeah, I like off-key pirate singing personally.
Yeah. Ops stands for operations. We are a super secret organization led by the operations lead, one Mr. Malik, right here. Really not that secret. We just keep a low profile. But we support RITSec in fulfilling any sort of technical requirement required to, maintain the club, put on competitions, just generally support the club. We also support members by providing technical resources for projects, competitions, anything that you want to, try out or test with. We have so many projects at any given point in time. We even have our own server space in the upstairs server room. We have two 42U racks with tons of hardware in there, servers, routers, switches, all of which is our responsibility to manage. And basically, we're a mini sysadmin team with a focus on security. So we work a lot with the sysadmins here in GCI to kind of take care of some stuff there. So let's go through the parts of ops. So we have our leadership, which, we have operations lead Malik and the junior operations lead myself. But I also have a handful of teams that focus on particular areas. We have automation, cloud, physical infrastructure, a hypervisor team, and the services team. And when you're in ops, you're not strictly assigned to one of these teams. You are basically assigned to projects. And depending on the project, you'll be working with particular team leads, just depending on what is required of that project. So if you were to join ops, you wouldn't be only working on cloud stuff. Depending on the project, you might be working with physical infrastructure. So for example, if we're setting up GitLab backups, you're gonna be working with cloud and physical infrastructure because you're trying to set up a storage solution in the stack, in the server room, as well as actually setting up the software that's gonna do the backups in GitLab, for example. So the automation team, pretty much their goal is, how do we do less work? How do we do less things by hand and set up stuff to just work on its own? So a lot of what we work with is something called Terraform, which is a automation tool for provisioning infrastructure. And you write Terraform as code, which makes it really great for setting up a lot of stuff very quickly in a very standardized way. It's written in a language called HashiCorp configuration language, which looks a little goofy. It's JSON-like. So it's easy to pick up and learn. Yeah. And we do a lot of templates to make future deployments easier. You can just pull up stuff that we've already written, change a few things, and just go. It's great. And it integrates with OpenStack, which is what we use to host stuff in the server room, and we're going to go over what that is a little bit later. But we also use Ansible. So once we've deployed boxes with Terraform, they're unconfigured. Basically, this just sets up the resources. This is just setting up the compute, the storage, the RAM, stuff like that. So we have a box, but we need to actually configure the services on the box, and that's what we use Ansible for. And specifically for OpenStack, there's something called Cola Ansible, which, because OpenStack is this amalgamation of services, a lot of it is Dockerized. And this allows us to provision those Docker containers very quickly in a way that makes deployment very easy. And Malik, you're good. Malik has a great talk on this. You can see it here. It's on the RITSec YouTube channel. You just got to scroll and look for Introduction to OpenStack. Let's move on to the cloud team. So the goal of this team is to manage all the stuff that we can't or don't want to host on our own infrastructure. And you may be thinking, why do we not want to host stuff on our own infrastructure? There are some things that are so critical that we want the actual management of the underlying systems to be done by someone else entirely. So for example, GitLab. That is like a mission critical resource for the club. And that's something that we have hosted in Google Cloud Platform because they tend to be more reliable than our own stack for obvious reasons, professionally managed and stuff like that. And we can just worry about working with GitLab instead of setting up all the redundancies and high availability we need for GitLab. Stuff like the RITSec CTF, for example, is another good one. We're using a software called KCTF, which uses Kubernetes. So we're using the Google Kubernetes engine to run this in our Google Cloud project. Another thing where we have a lot of traffic that's going to be coming in, the RITSec CTF Discord has 2,000 members. So that's something that we don't want to be slamming our own infrastructure with, especially when we're hosting challenges that are potentially could allow for remote code execution, escaping to like outside of containers, stuff like that. It also allows us to scale up. So if we have a particular challenge that's getting hit a lot, we can just automatically scale it up. We don't have to worry about resources because we hope that Google Cloud has enough compute for us. And they usually do, sometimes.
Yeah, most of the time.
Also stuff like DNS. So for our website, all that stuff is managed in Google's DNS in Google Cloud Platform. And additionally, Cloudflare, which actually handles the DNS management for us. That's stuff we don't want to do ourselves or can't do ourselves because DNS, you always got to rely on someone else for. So now, this is probably my favorite team, the physical infrastructure team. So this is where we get real hands-on. This is where we're racking stuff. We're going in the server room. We're cabling. We're configuring switches, routers, storage, anything else that has to be hands-on and physically done to a server or router or switch, et cetera. And we actually have a picture of one of our racks here. There's a lot of stuff in there, and that's just one of them. We've got another one that's about half full. But you can see there's a lot of there's a lot of servers in there. But yeah, so if you're interested in this kind of stuff, let me know, because I love talking about this stuff. So here we have the Hypervisor team, and the goal is to basically wrangle OpenStack. And that's pretty much it. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but since OpenStack is this amalgamation of APIs and services and all sorts of stuff, it takes a lot of teamwork and a lot of really digging deep into what each service does, which is a pain sometimes. And we joke a lot about how everything would be better if the stack didn't exist, and most of the time we're joking. But why would we even use OpenStack instead of something like ESXi or Proxmox or any of the other virtualization technologies out there? So because OpenStack is this amalgamation of services, it allows us to create a private cloud. So instead of provisioning a box, we can provision an entire project. We can assign users to projects and separate everything out that way. It's really cool. I'll go more into depth on OpenStack here, but it is essentially a modular set of APIs and services that work with the base operating system to provide cloud virtualization services. So OpenStack doesn't actually virtualize anything itself. It relies on whatever operating system it's installed on to provision resources. So whatever virtualization hypervisor you set up in OpenStack, that's what it'll use, and that's what it'll point to on the host operating systems. So each project in OpenStack, which is what they refer to it as, provides a very specific part of the cloud. So for example, Nova serves up just compute, and Neutron serves just network services. Glance does images. Heat does orchestration services, which allows you to automate provisioning and stuff like that. And it really is enterprise-grade software. Like, we have China Mobile uses this for their 5G network, and Red Hat themselves estimate that about 30% of global 5G networks are running on OpenStack. So it's pretty cool stuff. The US Army Cyber School actually uses OpenStack to serve up their infrastructure for teaching cybersecurity to Army cadets and stuff like that. Verizon uses it in their telecoms, VW, etc. Really cool stuff. So now we're moving on to the services team. And this is kind of a really broad thing, because when you think, like, services could mean anything. It could mean traditional DevOps. It could mean managing core services. It could mean, I don't know, serving a website, which is part of what the services team does. But our primary goal is to develop open source projects for the club and then become service owners and maintain them. That's the big part, is maintaining these projects. And that's we spend a lot of time keeping stuff up to date. So not only are we building core services on top of Docker, our help desk, Netbox, et cetera, we're also developing stuff like OB as an ops project. For those that don't know, it's the ops bot too. So Compsol is another great ops project that's developed by Brad, and he maintains it for competitions. It allows for the seamless integration of the competition environment for blue teams, so they don't have to actually log into OpenStack. They can just log into Compsol. It's a very nice UI, very great. We have Netbox, which allows us to manage our internal infrastructure and keep tabs on everything, which is really cool, because sometimes it's really hard to manage what you don't know is there. So that's important. The greatest ops tool, Flashback. Of course, we use that for competitions to manage snapshots, and when things go bad, we use this to stage reverts and keep blue teams doing what they do. And we have a ton of stuff in the pipeline that's coming up soon. Our Trello board is very, very full right now. So you may be thinking at this point, this is going over my head. There's a lot of stuff here that I don't know about, and how do you even get started here? Well, pretty much 90% plus of ops members have done some sort of home labbing. And what home labbing is setting up sort of a test environment in your home, your office, wherever, that allows you to kind of practice and experiment with a bunch of different hardware and software setups. So it allows you to test out anything you're interested in. If you're interested in hosting your own website, or a blog, or even doing your own personal cloud storage with something like Nextcloud, you can do that. This is how I learned all this stuff, is just playing around with stuff in my lab. And I strongly believe that this is the way forward if you want to learn anything about ops.
It can also be super cheap. It can also be super cheap. You can get old enterprise hardware like Optiplexes for $50 on eBay with RAM, CPU, and usually a hard drive. It's not going to be a super amazing hard drive, and it's not going to be perfect. But for a starter, you can throw Proxmox on it. You can run a surprising amount of stuff on really minimal hardware. When I started out home labbing, I started out with a Linux machine, an old laptop running Fedora, and that worked for me for years, actually I think a year. And then I switched to Proxmox and kept using that system, which only died a month ago. So that's a pretty effective way to get started. Can I just keep going? Yeah, okay. So why Homelab? It's an amazing resume builder. And you can literally just self-host everything. I don't trust Google and Apple, so I self-host my contacts, my calendar. My phone automatically backs up my photos and videos. So if I ever lose my photo or lose my phone, I still have all of the important files and stuff that I would want to get off of it anyways already, which is really nice peace of mind. You want to do a test environment to mess with K8s or some other new technology. The amount of testing I've done with Docker in my home lab is crazy. It's literally perfect for that. You want to check some malware that you ran, but your laptop doesn't have a ton of resources to run a VM. Throw it on your home lab. It's perfect. our IT doesn't charge you for like internet and electricity usage, so we do a little bit of like, we do some stuff with that. And if you don't know how to do it, again, OpsIG will teach you how. So just come to OpsIG. It's that simple. So you want to talk about it? All right, got it.
Listen, if you're not going to OpsIG, you're missing out. First and foremost, I just want to put that out there. But what is OpsIG? So this is like the learning portion of Ops. If you kind of want to get into this and do a little do a little testing, see if Ops is right for you, come to OpsIG. We teach you everything from layer 1 all the way to layer 7 in the OSI model. We're doing everything. We're making Ethernet cables. We're provisioning servers. We're working with OpenStack, Docker. We have all sorts of great stuff. And if you just want to learn like how to Homelab too, that's perfect too. We have a great time. We meet Mondays at 6:30 upstairs in 2730, and you should all. I'll see every one of you there next week. Be there for sure.
All right. So that was a lot of ops stuff. So let's take it back a step. This talk is also about Black Team. So let's talk about that for a second. So Black Team is not related to Halo, obviously. I know that's what all of you guys were thinking. What Black Team actually is just spamming this GIF until everything works. Okay, that's mostly a joke. So Black Team is like mostly designing and actually engineering competitions and stuff. So any computer you touch or even look at during a competition, that's Black Team. Any network you touch, that's Black Team. Any handouts you get, any rules you read, any themes that you see while you're at the competition, that is all Black Team. It's led by a competition architect. For example, the most recent competition was ISTS, led by Mr. Mav. Anyone can join to apply, or anyone can apply to join Black Team. Also, shout out to White Team, who we're not going to talk about too much, but are also really critical for competitions. They're basically the less technical side of Black Team, which helps us physically deploy everything and manage things. So if someone has a problem, they talk to White Team. White Team will figure out how to solve it or talk to Black Team about it, which is really, really important. So we have different teams in Black Team, sub-teams, I guess, which do different things. Since Black Team is such a big, important thing, it needs to be kind of broken down a little bit. So one of the biggest teams is infrastructure. Basically, they give everyone a backbone. You can't do anything without the infrastructure, so we need to set that up. That's physical and virtual networking, so the switches that go on the tables and stuff like that. All of those are all of the networking that goes into that is designed, and then actually the configurations are applied by the infrastructure team. They'll set up reverts. They'll set up the actual machines that will get Windows and stuff deployed to. They'll set up the project in OpenStack, and if there's any issues, they're usually the ones to troubleshoot it. They work a lot with Terraform and Ansible and other management tools for actual machines and the network. And yeah, they're really, really important. Under that is Windows and Linux, which basically is what it sounds like. You set up the Windows boxes, you set up the Linux boxes, you set up all the services on them. So that's LDAT, that's Samba, that's SSH, FTP, Apache, whatever stuff is in the competition that needs to run, that stuff is going to get set up by the Windows and Linux teams. There's also injects, which are all the handouts the handouts during the competition that you have to complete. You have to write a paper or write an email to a CEO, that kind of thing. That's the inject team. They come up with the actual ideas for the injects. They'll write up what the inject details are, and then they'll also come up with a scoring rubric for during the competition. And that obviously contributes a lot to your final score. So that's also very important. Logging, how do you actually give people points for having their services up? That's logging's whole thing. It gives that's a lie. That's scoring's thing. We're gonna get there in a second. Sorry. Logging checks lets us see what's going on during the competition. If something goes wrong, we check logging. Logging will tell us what's happening. It's really useful. It lets us know how we can improve things. If stuff starts breaking, we can look back at logging, figure out how it broke, and next competition it'll be fixed. We get to use a lot of enterprise hardware, or software, sorry, like Waza, Loki, and Splunk, which are really awesome. I have no idea what you just said. Datadog, yeah, that's true. We also use Datadog. The scoring team, which I just alluded to earlier, they have all of the responsibilities to set up scoring for services and stuff. If you have uptime, you're getting points from the scoring team. We use a open source project that actually is in-house designed called ScoreStack, which is pretty cool. So if you want to look at that, then you should join the scoring team. There's also a lot of other stuff, like I was the lead for phones at ISTS. That's not really, everything in the other category is kind of stuff that's not super common. So you'll have it for like a couple competitions, but maybe not for IRSec, and they're different for every competition. It's very competition dependent. So I have Weird OS, like we had Kubernetes at ISTS, CTF stuff, challenges and whatnot. The store, phones, which is what I did. All those things are very competition dependent, and so you get to work on stuff that you otherwise would not have worked on. So those are really cool if you want to like do something completely unique. Also Koth, yeah, that's true. King of the Hill. What is Koth? Koth is basically you have a bunch of boxes on the network that every team can try and pwn. And if you get into it, you can put a token on it, and if you have the token on it, scoring will give you points. The way that you pwn it is different for every challenge. Sometimes there will be a vulnerability. Sometimes it will just be like someone has really bad security, so they have pictures of their cat, and they say its name, and that's also the password to log in. So, it can be anything. So how does a competition actually happen? Like, how does this idea of, ISTS turn into, hey, I'm sitting down on this computer and red team is in my box? Like, how does that happen? So first, we need to elect a CA. The CA is going to go ahead and design the competition, or have like a general layout of what they want to happen. What's in scope, what services do they want to be, maybe what the theme is. And as they're designing that and figuring that out, they're going to start selecting leads. People that have applied to join Black Team, some of them are going to be designated as leads, and they're going to get their own sections for the different teams. So there will be a Linux lead, there will be an infrastructure lead, there will be a phone lead, etc. And those leads will also get to start getting team members on board, and also people that have applied. They're going to start working with the CA and their teams to start developing how to score stuff, how to deploy boxes, and all of the other really important stuff, and start nailing down the basics of the basics of the competition, which is when teams get to work. Finally, we're going to have an initial and test deploys, or our initial deployment and then our subsequent test deployments. This is where we kind of deploy stuff, see what breaks, figure out how to fix it, and then do it all over again. We just keep doing it until stuff works. We troubleshoot any issues. And then finally, eventually, we get to a final deploy. That final deploy, in theory, gives us a full green board. All the scoring works. We get up all the physical infrastructure, like all the systems and stuff. And we let red team deploy shortly afterwards, and that breaks everything. So maybe we have to redeploy, but that's not an issue because everything is automated now. So we can redeploy in not that much time at all. Finally, we have red team deployed, we have all of our infrastructure deployed, everything is good to go. And so now it's the day of the competition. The competition starts, the blue teamers arrive, the red teamers arrive, everybody sits down, we have our opening ceremony, and things get kicked off. Black team now is going to kind of take more of a hands-off approach, more of a reactionary stance. White team will obviously be really involved at this point. And they've already set up all of the physical machines, they've set up the rooms. And so now they're walking around making sure that blue teamers are all good to go. And if someone's box breaks or something happens, then they'll get in contact with the black teamer who will then try and take steps to fix things. After a job well done, the competition finally comes to an end. Everybody's happy. We give out our gifts, not our gifts, our prizes. They're not prizes. For legal reasons, they're not prizes. We give out stuff that were necessary to run the competition to people that did well in the competition. There we go. So now we get to start cleaning up and stuff, which is, again, white team is a massive help for. We'll start writing documentation, and then everyone's going to celebrate, get some rest finally, and we'll get ready to do it again. So obviously that relies on a lot of DevOps related stuff. Like we're using Ansible, Terraform, and stuff like that. What is DevOps? DevOps is basically anything that's related to like operations for developing software and stuff. CI/CD is a pretty big one, which is continuous integration and continuous development. Basically, it just makes it a lot easier to push code and then just have it automatically deployed. So like normally what you'd do is you'd like get add, commit, push, and then you'd SSH, and then you'd pull those things, and finally they'd be deployed. That's like a lot of steps. So CI/CD is basically just trying to reduce that, which is something that we're working on, trying to get working for Black Team and Ops. The tooling that we use to do that, at least for right now, consists of mainly GitLab. So GitLab is kind of like an all-in-one kind of platform, or it tries to be. So it allows us to automate a lot of things, at least on the Git side and past that. So architecture, you basically just as a user, you connect to the server, you push your code, and then GitLab will start doing pipeline stuff and make runners to build and execute jobs. It gives you a lot of visibility into what's going on in CI/CD, and yeah, it's pretty cool. DevOps, GitOps, and NoOps, oh my. So with GitOps, it's basically a continuation of what we were just talking about. You can just have a single repository, which is the source of truth. What's on the repository, is what's on the server, and it's just that simple. So it just makes it a lot more straightforward to actually push stuff. You don't have to worry about having access to all these machines. And as a security side, you don't need to give developers access to machines. You can just give them access to their applications alone, which increases security. It also increases reliability because you can have tests built in. So your code will only get pushed to the server if it actually passes all of its tests. So you know that the server or the stuff that's running on the server should be good to go. Yeah, and it's very consistent across whatever you're trying to push to. It's also useful for Red Team. We've been talking about Black Team and Ops a lot, but Red Team also deserves a little bit of a talking point here. You can use it. I know Ashley has her own project called Bifrost, so she uses it to automate using that or compiling and whatnot with that. So it's really useful for deploying really complicated stuff because the more complicated something is, the longer it takes to deploy. So automating it saves even more time. The more complicated it gets. And if something breaks, you just push and it'll redeploy itself, which is very nice. Yeah, so automatic latex, if you want to do academic papers, you can do with this. And then personal projects. Yeah, you can push your notes. It'll do a job and it'll automatically compile to PDF. Same thing with latex. It's pretty useful. Time for some stories. All right, for Black Team. We love physical networking in DHCP. So on ISTS, we had a little situation with the network being a little funky, and we realized, why are we doing all this weird networking mumbo jumbo with hairpinning and DHCP with the stack and stuff? Because the stack will not give DHCP to physical boxes. You have to set up your own DHCP server. In our case, with Pi-hole. Not with Pi-hole. It was with Pi-hole, but it was a Raspberry Pi that we were running it on. In the server room, just on a switch, just kind of teetering on a shelf somewhere. It was really, really great. And then we realized, hey, why are we doing this? We could literally just connect everything to the RIT network because we're using Compsol. And the phones don't need to be on any private VLAN, or they don't need to be on they don't need to be on a private VLAN. They can just kind of be on the network and it's fine. And so we just kind of realized, well, what are we doing? We're just wasting tons of time to make our stuff more complicated. So that was fun. There was also some fun issues with getting random operating systems working on the stack. So that was fun. These are so K3OS didn't want to play nice, and neither did FreePBX. So you get little weird, quirky things with the stack, which are always fun. Alpine? Oh yeah, Alpine. We love Alpine. There was also an issue with BSD, right, where BSD wouldn't work right if it had where it was checking its devices or whatever, the storage devices didn't work right? Yeah. It was something like that. Union busting was a great one. Don't pay $700 a year for unions. It was a funny little Black Team thing. Yeah, Red Team deploy never breaks anything ever. So
There's not a single Red Team tool with memory leaks, ever.
or saturates the network. They never saturate the network by making way too many connections for no reason. That never happens. All right, Tales from the server room. I'll let you take this one.
Okay. So, picture this. You are Mav at ISTS 2022. And you're trying to deploy what? Elasticsearch, was it? Yeah. And you're getting TLS errors. You're like, what the hell is this? Why is this breaking? And who's it? Fred I came up to? Yeah. Fred comes up to me and says, oh, yeah, just decrease your MTU by 50 bytes or something like that. What? Why does layer 2 issues affect TLS up in, application layer and network layer? Well, it turns out we got a little funky stuff going on in the stack, and if your MTU is set above 1440 bytes, roughly, stuff will just break, and you won't know what it is because it'll just cause all sorts of weird issues. So, yeah, if you ever have a problem with networking on the stack, try decreasing your MTU. Just trust me on that one. Just give it a shot. It's always, yeah.
It breaks Docker too.
Oh, yeah.
It breaks Docker.
We are never going to redeploy the stack because the stack is perfect. Yes. Maximum transmission unit? Yeah. It's basically the biggest a packet can be in bytes.
It's supposed to be automatic, but
yeah, no one's had to manually set MTU since like the late 90s, early 2000s. But we do. Because most of that stuff is automatically negotiated when you connect it. So when you say plug in like an Ethernet cable, it negotiates the connection, negotiates the link speed. So if it's going to be gigabit, 100 megabit, 10 megabit, whatever, as well as the size of packets that each side is expecting, pretty much. But when you get into virtual networking and stack networking, sometimes it gets a little weird. And that's where we have to take the lead on that and set it ourselves. Yeah, certain encapsulation techniques, as Mav says. Yeah. So why is there a DNS record for Minecraft.ritsec.club? Kind of curious. You'll never know. Try it. Maybe you should try it and see what comes up. Just saying. And
deals that
I'm not talking about that. Never come. Yeah. So why should you join Black Team or Ops? We do a lot of really cool shit all the time. Lots of diverse, interesting technology. Like you get the opportunity to work with all sorts of enterprise grade stuff that you wouldn't normally, unless you actually get a job in sysadmin or network operations or anything like that. Yeah. So you get to work with cloud compute. You get to work with weird operating systems, like we mentioned earlier, FreePBX and K3OS. Just OpenStack in general. Like I mentioned in the overview, like this is enterprise grade stuff that we have in a really nice small environment. So you get to play with it and learn it without having to worry about breaking, a multi-$1,000 contract or stuff like that, if you're working in, say, a cloud provider. Yeah. Specifically in ops, you get a lot of opportunities to improve the experience for people in the club in general. You get to write a lot of tools like...
You see the impact.
You see the impact. Like the functionality within Obi has a huge impact across the entire club. We've all sorts of cool stuff coming up, like Joe Abate is making a resume review tool that will improve the whole resume review process and get it out of Discord in general. So that would be really cool. Yeah. And we have extremely competitive pay. $0.
Also, if you break stuff, you're not like bleeding $1,000 like every hour or something like that, like you would at a big corporation. So like it's not as, obviously we don't want to break stuff, but if stuff breaks, it's not like you're going to get fired. It's a learning, yeah, it's much lower stress. It's literally just like a learning environment. That's like the whole point of this entire thing. So yeah, let's jump into like our personal experience with Black Team and with Ops. So with Black Team, I was on phone, so it was like mostly a solo kind of deal. But when push came to shove, I did have like lots of support, like trying to get phone set up. English is hard. Involved DHCP, and we were panicking because we don't have DHCP on the stack with stack networking. So it was like 2 in the morning. We were setting up a bunch of Raspberry Pis, trying to get bind DNS working. It was bind, right? Yeah, it was bind. Yeah. What happened to those? We ended up just throwing those in the can because we just used RIT's network. So that worked out great. But that was actually kind of awesome, though. Regardless, like I wouldn't redo that. I worked on phones which I never would have dreamed working on otherwise. And it was actually not that bad. I actually got to work a lot on like my bash scripting and stuff. So now the phones are basically just completely automated at this point, which let's go. I also got to write documentation. I love writing documentation. I don't. Yeah. As far as ops goes, also like Black Team was awesome. I highly recommend you guys do it. I'm gonna be doing it again. Mark my words. All right, ops. We love server rooms. Server rooms are awesome. We're going to be doing upgrades in the server rooms. Is that leaks? No? Okay. We're upgrading to 10 gigs soon, hopefully. So we're going to be in the server room doing lots of fun stuff real soon, and I'm excited for that. I got to teach, since I'm in ops, I also get to kind of do stuff with ops IG. So I've given Docker talks, and I've taught people how to actually like make Ethernet cables and stuff like that, and that kind of stuff is really awesome. Because it's like, you know, we talk about impact, but like nothing beats literally one-on-one, like sitting there and being like, oh, this is how you like, this is like the best way to straighten out twisted pairs in like 5 seconds, like just done. I also get to turn loose on Docker problems every once in a while, which is always fun. It's like a nice little puzzle. And Mr. Ross, your personal experience.
So as far as Black Team goes, I'm a relative newcomer. IRSEC 22. I kind of jumped in and took care of physical hosts because it was a little scuffed. I built an imaging solution using the Fog open source project, which allowed unifying all the hosts of one common image, which was really cool. I got to do a lot of physical stuff with that, set up a deployment environment, because the way the Fog works is it deploys images over network boot, over Pixie boot. So you have to physically plug in all the boxes into a switch and have it point to your Fog server to deploy the image. And yeah, troubleshooting all that and writing, like building the image and stuff, that was really cool. At ISTS 23, I was on the infrastructure team. I went in with basically zero knowledge of Terraform and came out like basically with the knowledge to write it all again, which was really cool, and learned a lot through that process. Troubleshooting the networking issues we mentioned earlier was also, it's fun now thinking about it, but at the time it was a little stressful. Yeah, and again, I did the physical hosts, re-imaged everything with Fog. We now moved away from Windows. And I spent like 6 hours trying to build a Windows image, and I was like, okay, this is garbage. We're not doing this. And then 15 minutes later, I had an Ubuntu image ready to go. And I just deployed that, and everything was fine. So
It's so easy.
it's just that easy. In ops, last semester, started from nowhere, applied for junior operations lead, and now we're here, just balling. We got like Michael mentioned, we have the upgrade coming up later this semester in summer. It's going to be great. Full redeploy is coming up. And we're having all sorts of cloud fun with GCP and figuring stuff out there, getting the CTF deployed up in the cloud. It's going to be great. So how do you, say you're interested, how do you join? Well, Black Team applications go out like well before the competitions start. So for ISTS, it was like December, or maybe even earlier, something like that. And ops, we put out applications at least once a semester. We might be doing one at the end of this semester, just depends on where we're at with our team. If you want to join Ops IG, we have a role for that. Please join that role. Join Ops announcements if you want to hear more about what Ops is doing in general, or start putting out more updates on like what's going on, the projects we're working on, stuff like that. Just keep an eye out for any announcements. We announce downtime, so please don't push to GitLab while we're doing GitLab maintenance. You will be sad. I will be sad. And when in doubt, put in a ticket. help.redsec.cloud. We'll help you out there.
That specific URL has documentation as well, so
Oh, yeah.
that'll answer questions.
And we have public documentation there for any common issues with working with like OpenStack and managing, like working with the ticketing system and stuff like that, and GitLab as well. Yeah. So yeah. Any questions?
That was a lot of information. Someone has to have a question. Guaranteed. Is the stack running?
You better go catch it.
ask the question since no one else does. How do you use this offensively?
Flashback is the best red team tool. And that is absolute facts right there. All right, thank you guys.